Navigation systems online. Ventilation systems activated. Priming missile systems. Afterburner on. Gentlemen, we are ready for takeoff. Sitting inside this car, you can't help but feel like you're in a cockpit. This is the Peugeot 5008. It's one of my favorite landouts this year, and in this video, we're gonna talk about why. Oh, is it worth our money? Let's find out. I consider myself a Eurocar enthusiast, but embarrassingly, I wasn't familiar with any of Peugeot's recent models until just recently. The 3008 and its almost identical, albeit slightly longer brother, the 5008, were my first introduction to the brand. Now, I've done a full review of the 5008 before, where I talk about the pros and cons. In this video, I'm gonna focus on the 5 things that I think make this stand out in this segment. Okay, reason number 1, looks. I think of all the premium sub-luxury cars that I've driven, this one has the most curb appeal. It looks so unique that you can't mistake it for anything else. And even though it experiments with style, it does so in a very tasteful way. I think this front end will appeal to a wide range of tastes. It will appeal to those who want edgier styling like me, but I don't think it'll offend anyone who has more conservative tastes. And that is something that's very difficult to do. I love it, my mother loves it, my sisters love it, and even my nephew loves it. The unique and edgy styling doesn't stop at the exterior. The interior is one of the quirkiest in the segment. The way it wraps around you makes you feel like you're in a cockpit. The layout of this interior is very different from your average car. As you can see, the steering wheel is quite small, and the instrument cluster is above the steering wheel. So you don't look through the steering wheel to see the cluster, you look above it. So the good thing about having your instrument cluster up there is that you don't have to look down so much to see your instruments. So it's a very driver-centric design. Almost everything over here is angled towards the driver. You get paddle shifters. By the way, this is one of the most spacious glove boxes that I've seen on a mainstream car. So you can see I can fit this camera in here. You also get plenty of little conveniences, like you get a cooler underneath this compartment. You get ambient lighting, which looks really nice at night. Overall, it just oozes with style. Also, you get the panoramic sunroof, which may be a common thing on Chinese vehicles, but among mainstream brands, it is still a novelty, at least here in the Philippines. Reason number 3 is the steering wheel and instrument cluster layout. Now, technically, this is still part of the interior, but I gave it its own section because this is one of the things that makes a Peugeot, and differentiates it from most cars on the road. Ever since I started driving Peugeots, every other crossover felt like it had an oversized steering wheel with a slow ratio. I say, you know that you have something good when it changes your expectations for the succeeding cars that you drive. When it becomes the benchmark that you compare others to. And the 5008, as well as Peugeot's other crossovers, became that benchmark for me. Like most modern cars, it has an EPS system, so you don't get a lot of steering feedback, but it stands out because its small size and quick ratio adds spectacle to the driving experience. It makes you feel like you're driving an F1 car. And of course, being a Peugeot, it's covered in nice leather, and you get the imposing Peugeot logo at the center. I also like how the instrument cluster is above the wheel, so you don't have to look down so much when you want to look at your instruments. It's almost right below your line of sight, so it functions almost like a heads-up display. Also, Peugeot has some of the fanciest looking clusters in the market. The one on the 2008 looks especially good. The 5008's cluster is also pretty nice, and it's also highly customizable. You can set it up so that the navigation shows on the cluster. So if you use navigation, you just have to look slightly down to see the map. You don't have to look at the infotainment screen. The fourth reason is an extension of the third one. The Peugeot 5008 is actually a lot of fun to drive, at least by family crossover standards. The steering wheel's size and shape makes you feel like you're driving an F1 car. The ratio is also relatively quick, and its small size makes it feel even quicker. So if you want to change lanes, you just give it a quick flick, and you're in the adjacent lane. And when you're on the twisties, you don't have to turn the wheel as much. In sport mode, the engine feels responsive, and it feels like it has more than the advertised 165 horsepower. The responsive steering, paired with a responsive engine, makes the 5008 feel like one of the more agile 7-seater crossovers in the price bracket. You also get paddle shifters, which aside from adding to the F1 experience, also allow you to shift gears without taking your hands off the wheel. The 5008's transmission reminds me of BMW's slushbox transmissions in terms of shifting speed and smoothness. Downshift. Downshift. It actually sounds pretty good. Now, I'm not sure if the sound is piped in, but it's one of the best sounding crossovers in this price bracket. And definitely the sound adds to the driving experience. But if you'd rather have a relaxing and comfortable crossover, the 5008 can also deliver on that department. If you turn off sport mode, all your inputs become feathered, so it's not as responsive to throttle input, so it feels a lot smoother even if you have a heavy foot. For those who are into relaxing long drives, it is very quiet. The noise insulation is pretty good. The seat is very comfortable, and I love the fact that it has adjustable lumbar support. Yeah, the only thing that's really missing here is adaptive cruise control, but it does have cruise control, so on traffic-free cruises like this, you can let your left foot relax for a while. You also get driver aids, which improve safety and also help reduce driver fatigue. It has lane keep assist, which automatically steers the car on the highway by following the lines on the road. It has forward collision warning and blind spot warning. And you also get adaptive headlights. So you can see it's very dark over there, but when I turn the wheel, so you can see it illuminates the path where I'm going. Despite being fun to drive, the 5008 is still relatively economical. I drove it to Zambales and back, and I got between 16 to 17 kpl with a light foot. In the city, I got about 9 kpl. By the way, thanks to Shell for providing me with some points on my Shell Go app. If you don't have a Shell Go account yet, consider getting one. It's remarkably convenient as you don't have to deal with cash or with your credit card. They just scan your app, it takes a second, and then you can leave. So it also saves time. You can also accumulate points which you can later redeem.
Pinabati ko nga pala yung pamilya ko sa Bohol. Yan po.
The fifth reason is something that is difficult to define or quantify. And I will admit, it's mostly subjective. There are vehicles that feel mass-produced to appeal to a general audience. The 5008 doesn't feel like one of those vehicles. There's something a bit more personal about the way the 5008 was designed. It doesn't feel like it was designed by robots or by accountants. It feels like it was designed by artists who are passionate about their craft. It doesn't quite follow a formula, and not everything makes sense. Like, why is the eyewear holder only accessible to the driver? Or why is there denim on the dashboard? But I think those things just add to its appeal. The styling and the functionality of the car mesh together in a way that makes the car feel different. Overall, when I first drove the car, I felt like I was in something unique, something special. I think the word that I'm looking for is character. That's something that the 5008 has and a lot of vehicles lack.